What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Sly Geordie, and welcome back to F1 25 driver career mode for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. But if you missed last episode at the Italian Grand Prix, the second Italian Grand Prix of the year, Monza, with the craziest starting grid ever due to grid penalties. Regardless, though, it ended up being a pretty normal result for the grid as a whole. Max Verstappen able to recover from P11 up to P1. Norris from around the same area, I think like P12 or something, he was able to get a P2. And we just about managed to hold on with high tyre wear to P3. A nice little battle with Esteban Ocon towards the end of the race, just like at the last Imola Grand Prix. So, yeah, quite a nice race to go into this one, which is going to be a very similar one. It's just a little bit more technical, but it still has some really high-speed straights, which we've always been one of the strongest at since the midway point of the season. Of course, I haven't been doing much upgrades at all, so Williams have now overtaken us in the powertrain aspect, so we're definitely not the best car on the grid anymore. But again, I'm really not focusing on any upgrades anymore because we've got the new regulations coming in very soon. We've had the worst chassis throughout the season though, so we definitely need to improve that. But we do have the monocoque structure coming in just before this Grand Prix. In terms of vehicle condition, we're pretty much okay, other than the MGU-H, which I will be replacing going into this Grand Prix. But I'm not going to waste a new one in practice sessions, so we'll wait a bit there. But yeah, by the time you see me in qualifying, we'll have a new MGU-H, and everything else seems to be pretty much okay. So yeah, that's all I pretty much have to say. We got weekly resources coming in, but again, we're saving it for the new regulations. Not that that matters anyway, because we're looking to join Aston Martin. We're having some secret meetings with them, of course. So yeah, I won't care too much. I'll you know, help this team regulation-wise where I can. I think I'll try my very best, because it will be very interesting to see how the grid looks going into Season 2. Of course, we also have the pre-season modifiers as well. I forgot what they're called. We never really got to experience them in F1 24 because we only did one season. But yeah, this is not a sprint weekend. I'm pretty sure it was in F1 23, or was it 24? I don't know, but it's not a sprint weekend this time around, which is good. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So let's have a look at, where is it? Progress history right here. Let's see who's been bringing in upgrades. So it's Aston Martin bringing in a major upgrade going into this Grand Prix. So they are now the third best car on the grid, and they certainly need to be, judging from the fact they have not had a very good season. They are P9 in the Constructors, so it's one of the worst seasons in their history. I think definitely their worst season as Aston Martin, that is for sure. But they're in a pretty heated battle with Alpine and Haas, so if they want to get that P7 and hopefully start catching up towards Williams, yeah, they're going to have to really step it up. We don't really care about how good Aston Martin do. It really doesn't matter. This is the last season of the ground effect era, so you know, everyone will have a totally different car going into the new regulations. So I'm not too fussed about Aston Martin clearly having the worst car versus ours. But yeah, that's pretty much all we've got to say. When it comes to Baku, definitely not one of my strongest tracks ever. In fact, I think it was the only track that we never managed to get a win at in F1 23. So definitely, statistically, my weakest track. But we'll see how things go into this iteration of the F1 game. It's time to go to qualifying.
And a warm welcome here ahead of qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Normally these streets are lined with vehicles, it's non-stop traffic jams, but today the roads are closed to everyone except the 20 best drivers in the world. It's time for qualifying for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
Well, here we are at one of the more difficult circuits on the Formula One calendar. Certainly one of the more difficult ones for me, if F123 was anything to go by. But of course, there's a big difference between the handling of F123 and the handling of F125, especially when it comes down to what cars we're using as well. The My Team car was probably the worst for understeer in F123, especially when we got to the maxed out cars towards the end of the career mode. Yeah, the low speed sections with the amount of understeer that we had, trying to slow the car down, especially going in towards the castle section, really lost us a lot of time against the AI on our consistent set difficulty. So yeah, big differences this time around though. Our first lap is good enough for a P6, not too far off of Verstappen it seems, but Verstappen didn't seem to set the greatest lap either, so obviously we're going again. This is the only lap that matters anyway. The first one is just to get a lap on the board in case, you know, a red flag happens or something bad happens in your second lap. Maybe it starts raining and conditions get worse, or a car gets in your way. You want to have that first lap down to at least, you know, have a banker. So that was good enough for P12. Not the greatest. We definitely can find some more time, and already as we finish up Sector 1 here around Baku, up to 3/10 gained, down to 2/10. We went a little bit slower there. The thing about Baku is that you can't use too much ERS at the start of the lap. You're going to have to save that for that same straight right at the end. So obviously you can see that I have a lot of ERS saved up throughout this lap, about 70%, because a lot of it is going to be used on that final straight. You use a lot, like, I mean, look at how much we're burning already with hot lap, and then we're not even done with Sector 2 before harvesting is reduced. So ERS works a bit differently on this track compared to most other ones on the calendar, but so far consistently good. Nearly 3/10 gained as we now come around the final corners, and we're going to be able to use a little bit of ERS. Of course, had to put the fuel mix on the lowest I could possibly put it. We're going to use a little bit of ERS, but there's only so much you can use. It will push us over 3/10 though. Where is it going to put us for the Grand Prix? P8. So our average qualifying position, to be quite honest. We can do a lot of work with that one. Oscar Piastri is on pole position. Carlos Sainz in the Williams, P2. That is huge for him. Verstappen didn't have the greatest qualifying. Lewis Hamilton all the way down in P14. Very interesting. But let's go down to the grid.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. With 20 turns and a length of 3.7 miles, Baku City Circuit in the heart of the Azerbaijan capital is a real test of a driver's endurance, patience and precision. 90-degree corners through Sector 1 lead into a tightening uphill sprint as we start to circle around the old city. Then a 1.4-mile chase flat out through Sector 3 towards the finish line. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri and Ocon. The rookie, Albon, Russell and Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Hamilton. Stroll, Hadjar, Nico Hülkenberg and Jack Doohan. Behrman and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And striding into our commentary box to join us today, the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Davidson. Now, you're the racing driver in this partnership, so tell us about this racing driver. Put us in their shoes. How are they going to be feeling?
Well, you've got to be prepared, Crofty. Before you even step foot inside the car, you've got to know, you've got to have a pre-race game plan. You've watched videos before you get into the car of previous races gone by. you know where you have to place your car if X, Y, or Z happens in front of you or behind you. So having this clear game plan is absolutely essential before you get in the car.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Some pretty interesting grid penalties going on here. Not as crazy as the last episode at Monza was, but Oscar Piastri takes a 5-second grid penalty. He'll be starting right out ahead of us in P5, so maybe if we get a good enough start, we can get past him. Of course, the start is pretty narrow. Leclerc's taken a 10-place grid penalty, so both Ferraris outside of the top 10. When it comes down to strategy, I didn't really feel much tyre wear around Baku. The rear tyres get burnt up a bit, but honestly not quick enough to really have any kind of real issue. Maybe towards the end of the race we might run into some, but yeah, I did a lot of laps in practice, and even in qualifying, seeing how the soft tyres were worn up. I didn't really get much of a challenge out of it, so we're going for a one-stop here. Hard tyres to start off with, a long stint. A lot of the guys around us also on hards will be going on to the mediums later on, as we now wait for the 5 red lights. Carlos Sainz in the Williams will be leading us away. Lights out. And away we go. It's a good start from Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris looking to challenge. We can't get past anybody because it's 3 wide ahead of us. Alex Albon with a beautiful overtake on Oscar Piastri right there. He's up into P5. We're looking to get side by side with Esteban Ocon, a pretty frequent challenger in this career mode. Side by side down this straight here, neck and neck. But we have the inside and we should be able to get this move done. Also braking a little bit later than Esteban does as well. So we gained 1 position up into P7. Perhaps it could have been more if not for Albon's great start. But yeah, looks like that patch to improve AI race starts is really coming into fruition in this race in particular. Look at the gap from Sainz to Norris. Something happened to Norris. I think Verstappen might have challenged him or whatever, but Sainz is already out in front, and quite a comfortable gap to boot. So it'll be really interesting to see where Carlos Sainz ends up at the end of the Grand Prix. Perhaps a win, I'm not sure. The Williams is pretty far away from the McLaren and the Red Bull. We know those two teams have got a much superior car, so later on in the Grand Prix, when strategy comes into play, we'll be looking at that a lot more. Of course, Carlos Sainz and Albon both on the mediums, so no wonder they both got a great start. Of course, we don't know how quickly those mediums are going to wear out compared to the hards. We don't have to worry about that for now, as we started on the hards, but it'll be very interesting to see what goes on towards the end of the Grand Prix as we now look to chase down Oscar Piastri. Alex Albon makes the move past Yuki Tsunoda, as you saw there. So a great start for him as DRS is now enabled. We're struggling to keep up with the guys ahead of us. This is usually how it is with the AI in this game. They get like a nice little acceleration compared to us, unfortunately. But it's not as big of an issue as it was in F1 22 and 24. It's very bearable. I say this a lot, we talk a lot about this game. I'm happy with it, so we're not going to talk too much about it. But we're going to be able to make up a lot of time on the cars in the corners here. As Yuki Tsunoda is still trying to get past Albon somehow. We're closely following Oscar Piastri, so if we can get this close going on to the main straight, we should be fine. Of course, Oscar Piastri will be getting DRS as well on Tsunoda, so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, we're a lot quicker than these guys in the corners. Something I haven't mentioned is front brake bias, and actually, now that I'm looking at it, they've changed the font. It used to be like all caps, but now they've changed it to, caps at the beginning of each word. I don't know why they changed that, honestly. I didn't mind it before. It's a bit of a pointless change, as now Oscar Piastri looks to make the move past Tsunoda. But what I was getting at is I usually put the brake bias down to 54% because it lets the rear get out a little bit more and rotates the car a little bit quicker through the corners. This, unfortunately, is a bad idea for Baku because it burns up the rears a little bit more. Of course, I'm deciding to take the risk because it does make me a lot quicker going into corners. However, it will also make me a lot slower going towards the end of our stint. But right now, it's not an issue, as going on to lap 5, we are slowly making our way past Yuki Tsunoda with DRS. He lost DRS on Piastri. However, we were so quick on that main straight, we're managing to gain it back on Piastri. Piastri actually will not get DRS on the cars in front of him. Albon so quick on those mediums for now that even Piastri has completely lost him in that amazing McLaren. He is taking a grid penalty, so it genuinely just comes down to tyres. Mediums a lot quicker than the hards this time around, but we're looking pretty quick on the hards, as since Oscar has no DRS, we are going to have a really good opportunity to make the move. I'm going to get as much slipstream as possible, peel out to the right hand side, around the outside, and that is the move for P5 done, as we can now set our eyes on Alex Albon. Pretty soon those mediums will be wearing out, and our hard tyres will be the best tyres. And honestly, it doesn't really take that long, only a couple of laps. We're dragging Piastri with us as well. He's only 8 tenths behind, so he will get DRS and perhaps will be able to challenge Albon in the coming laps. But it's our turn this time round, as we're slowly but surely catching up to him. Don't want to use too much ERS, as I feel like I'm already using a bit too much. But around the outside we go once more. Copycat move. Didn't give us as much work as Piastri did, of course. But there you go, there is that done. And we are now in P4. Of course, the work is not done. We obviously have this straight as well, but yeah, Albon has a lot less grip compared to us at this point, and yeah, we're easily able to bookend that. I'm not sure if we'll be able to catch up to Verstappen. He's on the same tyres as us as we now go on to lap 14. Yeah, no progress has been made on that front. However, we've managed to get in front of the guys in front of us. So I think Albon managed to defend against Piastri a lot more. I don't know where Sainz is, but Sainz is definitely pit. Those guys in the mediums definitely had to pit earlier. But look at the tyre wear. It honestly really isn't that bad at all. In fact, we probably could go a couple more laps on these hards, but I decided to pit 1 lap earlier than I initially planned to, because again, I'm so confident in the tyre wear that I'm going to take the risk for the mediums just to see what happens here. So entering the pits now. Let's see what the crew can do. It's a pretty good pit stop, and we're getting right back out there. So we're going to gain a lot of time on the cars in front of us. That's kind of also what I wanted to do. I wanted to take the risk on those mediums to see if we could make up those 2.5 seconds on, you know, Piastri, on Verstappen and Norris, I mean. But we come out of the pits right behind George Russell in that absolute dog poo Mercedes. We're going to make the move look easy around the outside. And yeah, there was absolutely no challenge there, as we are now following closely behind Lewis Hamilton. So, yeah, Hamilton struggling on the hards as well. Hamilton well behind, to be fair. I don't know where he's going to be in the grand scheme of things. I don't know how much positions he has gained, but we're getting past Hamilton pretty easily down the inside in a pretty unorthodox place to overtake, but it is done. Got a bit of a warning there. Definitely struggled on that corner a little bit. I tried to take that corner a little bit wider, just so I could have more space going into it. It's a pretty narrow corner, can catch a lot of people out, and I want as much space as possible. That unfortunately means I am extending track limits and getting warnings there, so I definitely have to keep an eye on that. But a lot of the guys ahead of us are now going to be pitting, including the likes of Norris, I hope, at some point. Norris actually is continuing to go. Piastri is getting pit priority. Norris still going. Tsunoda not too far ahead, and we are just ahead of Max Verstappen. Look at this now. Norris coming out of the pits. You saw us with Verstappen coming around the corner. Let's see where Norris gets up to. Just behind us, Verstappen looking to challenge down the inside. He'll be frustrated that Norris is in front of him, but now it's going to be a fight for the lead, as lap 18 Norris has 2 lap fresher mediums, so I'm going to have to get in my bag with naughty defending here, pretty much closing the door on Lando Norris. Not sure if that would be legal in real life. I don't think so. But yeah, look at this, pushing him wide right there. My objective at this point was to kind of push Norris so far back, make him lose so much time that Verstappen will be overtaking him. Because if Lando gets past me, it's race over from there pretty much. Lando again has 2 lap fresher tyres. He's very quick in that McLaren. And look at this. I'm having to dive down the inside just to make sure I'm regaining the position there, as Lando had initially overtook me, making a little bit of contact as well. But the move is done. It's going to be very, very tricky for us to survive in these last 7 laps here. Verstappen is also struggling to get past Norris because, again, Norris has fresher tyres. I'm going to go defensive here on the inside. Norris looking to go round the outside. It doesn't happen, though, and there's contact. Bits and pieces flying off of the car. Oh, my God, I'm being aggressive in this race. I really don't want Lando to pass me. Of course, we are a Red Bull driver as well. It is in our best interest as a Red Bull driver to have Verstappen win if we cannot. And obviously, Verstappen is the priority. We're the Red Bull Junior. He is the one going for the championship, and he doesn't want, Red Bull doesn't want Lando Norris to gain any points on Max. But I don't know how we're supposed to pull this off, to be honest. We're able to get a reasonable distance out ahead of Lando Norris. We, even though we do have older tyres, we are better in sectors 2 and 3, but Lando gains so much time on these straights with the DRS, and he's able to keep up with us enough to a certain point that, yeah, we're having to defend quite hard just to keep the position. But we're able to keep it so far, but as you can see, we're going lap by lap here. Lando is essentially challenging me every single lap here, and Verstappen isn't really gaining much time. In fact, he's losing it. So at some point I might have to slow down to maybe encourage a move more. But look at this, Lando is just all over me in this race. Look at this, a little bit of contact once again. We're going to go down the outside to make sure we keep the move. There's so much contact between the two of us. I'm surprised neither of us have gotten a penalty just yet, but we are still out in front, just about. This is very, very tricky for us coming around this corner. And look at Lando here, looking to dive down the inside. Very strange from him, and a very, very weird mistake. I think that's because I took a bit of a wider line, and Lando half decided to make a move down the inside, and then obviously thought better against it because two cars don't go into that corner. Either way, because of that, Lando ended up losing a lot of time, like at least half a second or so, and that was enough to push him out of DRS. So if Max Verstappen is going to have any opportunity to make the pass, if he's going to make the pass on any lap, it needs to be now, as he is in front of Lando Norris. That's a pretty easy move since Lando doesn't have DRS, and now he is in P2 right behind us. Of course, it will not take long for Lando to overtake Max once more. So obviously we're going to do the job right here, using a bit of ERS, sorry, to make sure we still maintain the speed. We're going to let Max pass, and he'll be able to take the win from here. We're helping Max a lot this season because, again, we are a Red Bull driver, but obviously we're having those talks with Aston Martin. So this is just going to be a one-time thing just for this season, just to make Max, what was it, a 5-time champion now it would be in our universe. But yeah, going on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, right behind Verstappen, Norris right behind us. So we're still going to have to do some crazy defending here just to make sure that Norris stays behind us. Of course, tyres are going to be really worn at this point, especially our rears. Verstappen getting further and further out ahead, so clearly we're the ones struggling the most. Of course, we have the worst chassis by far compared to these two. But we have done enough to be able to secure a win for Max Verstappen and Red Bull once again. It will be P2 for us, so a huge haul of points for us, and also Max Verstappen versus Lando Norris. I think at this point we have pretty much confirmed that Max Verstappen will be winning the championship this season. So we might get a nice big bonus at the end of the season from Red Bull for that. Maybe our tactics weren't the most noble, but we got the job done, and that's all that matters.
We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again, because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
And that's 2 wins in a row now. It's the start of potentially something special, but they can't get ahead of themselves just yet. It's a long way to go.
It's been a hard afternoon of brilliant racing, but now it's time for some proper celebrations. The podium awaits. And for those that have missed the Dutch national anthem, fear not. It's back again, because Max Verstappen is back on the top step.
So I'm pretty happy with that result. We're getting into the last stages of the season. In fact, if the previous games are anything to go by, our next episode, Singapore Grand Prix, is when we're going to figure out what parts will be changed for the regulations. Not that it will matter anyway. I think we've got like the post-season, pre-season modifier thing to do, which I'm very interested in. What I'm going to do is actually really look into the 2026 regulations and try to see which modifier matches that regulation the most, so we can replicate it as much as possible. So a really good result for us there, jumping up further ahead of Lewis Hamilton, P4 in the standings. We are just having a cracking season in the V car, but Ferrari tripping over themselves as usual. Yuki Tsunoda's not doing the greatest neither, so it really makes it look a lot easier for us. And then of course Mercedes just absolutely dropping off in performance. Again, it makes it look so much easier for us. If those guys were doing as they usually would, we wouldn't be doing nearly as well as we're doing this season. But that is the end of this episode of F125 Driver Career Mode. Sorry for the wait on this. It's been a few days, but Red Dead Online got a new update. So I wanted to spend a couple of days playing that. And of course, since I love Red Dead Online, it's been years since an update. I wanted to prioritize it. But yeah, we're going to get right back into the swing of things on career mode. And yeah, next time, Singapore Grand Prix. I'll see you next time. Comment, share, like, and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you next time. Peace.